welcome to the Retro Game Gauntlet Reviewcast, where we randomly choose a game, play it for a week, attempting to win, and then we complain about it afterwards. I'm Torsvik, and I'm here with Septopus.
Hello.
Hello. And today, I played Paperboy 2, the NES version, and Septopus, what did you have the honor of playing?
I played Hayaku no Sekai no Monogatari, The Tales on a Watery Wilderness.
Definitely a bit more of an oddball game, since Paperboy is a slightly more recognizable title.
If you need a translation, it's 100 World Story.
That's a lot to say, 100 World Story, dude.
100 World Story, The Tales on a Watery Wilderness. Though, of course, it's much more easier to just say Hayaku no Sekai no Monogatari.
Naturally. So to talk real quick about what the Gauntlet is there's an online generator. I believe it's provided by like the V forums of 4chan or something like that.
More specifically, the VR forums, because
Okay.
it was originally just video games forums, but they split up a retro forum subcategory.
You have to tell me these things because I don't 4chan. Anyway, so it randomly chooses a video game based on the console, and the idea is you try and beat it within a week's time, sort of the time span that you would have for a video game rental. I don't know how much you do these stipulations that I at least do to myself, Septopus, but my main stipulation is I don't look at any game guides, or I don't check out the game facts, and I don't look for speed runs of the game. Even when I get stuck on a puzzle, I want to try and recreate that, getting stuck on really esoteric puzzles that you get, especially with old NES games and things that like. We can talk about Sonic 3 and the Carnival Night Zone. Things that you just would
let's not call that a puzzle.
Well, regardless, if you bought that game, or not even if you bought that game actually, but more so if you rented it, the fact that you're supposed to know to just push up and down while standing on the big drum. Yeah. If you looked at a guide, it would tell you right away because, that's sort of a thing. I feel that if I'm looking up a guide, it's because I'm going to play it on my own time, and it's less about, getting the feel of an odd game. I don't know. Do you do the same or?
No, yeah. As far as anything I look up, I just look up like screenshots before I download the game. And that was it.
Yeah. I'll oftentimes, I've done it for a few games now that I've played in the past. I'll read the manual because sometimes there's just like button things that you don't know that the game won't tell you because there's no tutorials in older games like this.
Yeah.
So, manuals are cool. I don't think that there's any other real big stipulations. Oh, I'm not going to play a game that is like super common. Like if I roll up Legend of Zelda, I've beaten Legend of Zelda. Everyone knows Legend of Zelda. It's not that big of a deal. There's a handful of games, most of the Mega Mans. So if I roll up a Mega Man, probably not going to play it. I've already beaten it, and I know I can do it in a week. I could probably do it in one sitting. I don't know if you're going to play some old classics, or if there's, I don't know, your thoughts on that matter.
I'll just play what I roll. I don't think I've played enough to like really worry about, oh no, I've already played this game and mastered it. So even though I do get something I've played and beaten, I could probably still just play it again easily.
Waiting for Adventure Island right now. I'm waiting for the day to roll up Adventure Island. So, let me think. Anything else that we need to say specifically about the Gauntlet? I guess it's up to each individual person who rolls it. If it's an exceptionally long game like an RPG and you feel like there's more you can get out of it, like you can experience the game, I think we can allow a week's extension. Completely up to the choice of the person playing it. I think that you're going to be a little more strict in not adding any weeks, from what I've heard from you.
No, I probably won't. I'll just see. I just want to see how much I can get done in a week.
Yeah, but I don't know if you have a tighter schedule than me, or because I also stream it most of the time. Like if I got a Final Fantasy like Final Fantasy 1, the coolest part of that game is when you get the like mid-game transformation, and I'm not sure if I can nail that in the first week, just due to the massive size of the game. But whatever. If the game's boring, I just won't do it.
I will say one last thing regarding the Gauntlet is, while we are using their generator, we are not using VR's official rules. VR's official rules is 3 days for one game, 1 week for long RPGs or PlayStation 1 games. But that's generally under the assumption that those are 3 committed days to playing the game.
Yeah. Well, I think we actually kind of do about the same, give 3 committed days of significant playing anyway.
Yeah.
But the difference is that we have real lives and, you know,
Yeah. And another
we're not doing it for actually any
and
competition.
another part is as the name Gauntlet implies, they move from one system one at a time. So after you've completed your NES game, you then
Yeah.
move on to your SNES game and so forth. I think we'll mostly just be playing by which system we want to play.
Yeah. Speaking of which, you probably want to do 64 or PlayStation and newer because those games can sometimes be a pain to emulate.
We might be able to do PlayStation 1. PlayStation 1 runs fairly reliably,
Yeah.
but we can hold off till later.
A lot of 64s run pretty good.
But
But there is a handful, especially the ones that are on the that require the what's it called, the expansion pack. I think mostly of like Perfect Dark doesn't run very well in emulation, and Donkey Kong doesn't run very well in emulation. So yeah, we could do PlayStation. I think we should just like kind of encapsulate our goal here isn't like a competition of us trying to beat the other person. We're trying to more just find like old gems of video games that are oftentimes overlooked. And I've had a pretty good track record of finding games that were interesting and or fun. This is actually probably the first really bad game that I've been forced to play. We could also talk about Bugs Bunny's, was it like a Rabbit Rampage, I think it was called?
Dude, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I was saved because the ROM was jank.
Just say Bugs Bunny and then stop.
The Bugs Bunny garbage game. So, to move on to what we actually played this time. So I got Paperboy 2 and
NES port.
Yes, the NES port.
Which I don't exactly know the history of Paperboy 2 specifically, so I'm wondering, is that technically like a back port? Like it was SNES first, and then they deported it down.
Which is
like,
very possible because a lot of that kind of stuff was going on at the time. It was done, I don't know if the original Paperboys were, but this Paperboy was done by Tengen.
Mm-hmm.
Which you probably know Tengen is like the company that did sort of the bootleg ports, like the quality ports.
Yeah, well, yeah, Tengen's kind of interesting because the reason why Tengen exists is because they were trying to avoid like the game restrictions that NES and Nintendo used to put on game companies, where you're only allowed to release so many games on their consoles, and this was like the Atari's like style like way to get around that.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically made like a fake corporation as a front so that they could release more games and have more freedom to release it.
And with this fake corporation, could they not get the like seal of approval from Nintendo on it?
Yeah, exactly. If you ever see a game made by Tengen, it's done in like a black case, not the traditional gray ones, with like a gold label on it, and does not have like the official seal on it.
Yeah. So there's a few things to say about this. Is first of all, Paperboy, I at least know the game by title, which tells me that's probably a pretty well received game. A lot of older games that weren't very good aren't remembered for the most part. So the original Paperboy is probably somewhat good, and this is the NES port of what I assume is a Super Nintendo game they could have been co-released. That wasn't too uncommon at the time because there's that. We don't have it anymore, but there was a like weird Passover stage between the NES and the Super Nintendo where games were being released on both for like a significant amount of time. Like I think more than a year.
For the info about Paperboy, and probably telling you this probably makes sense about the formatting of the game, is that it was originally an arcade game that then got ported to just dozens of home systems, everything from SNES down to the ZX Speccy.
Well then, considering that, this does not feel like an arcade game. This very much feels a lot more like a console game, namely its repetitive nature and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So to talk a little bit more about my experience with the game, I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy it at all. I went into it, first of all, with good hopes. So I wasn't going in like, sure, Paperboy sounds gay.
It was not the hardcore Paperboy simulator that you would have wanted.
Yeah.
Which in modern times is being a very fat, sad guy driving a sedan around.
But you go around and there's lots of, I don't know if you would call it like whimsical or something of that nature. I can't think of.
Quirky.
Yeah, quirky is probably more appropriate. So, because there's your usual like you would imagine Paperboy type enemies, like cars coming down the street and dogs that you have to avoid. But there's also you go by the haunted house that has the ghost that comes and chase you, or the mummy that leaps out into the street, and you have to dodge the mummy. And then there's a house with gargoyles that spit lightning. You have to avoid them. Um, so it's got that, and as you sort of go around, there's different events that you can like interact with. There's a pig being arrested on a spit that you can hit with a paper, and it runs away. There's a woman who's sunbathing. You hit her with a paper, and sprinklers go off on her. So it was a fun, cute, little, interesting thing to give you an idea of how it plays. The controls are pretty all right. Perspective is a little weird at times with ramps.
Especially considering that was the one thing whenever I saw Paperboy is like, oof, isometric.
Yeah.
On a flat surface.
As a gameplay, I don't know, would you call this almost like a very unique like shmup? Because you are on a force scroll, move left and right to dodge obstacles, and then you hit stuff with essentially a projectile.
I don't know. You do get to control your speed and travel distance a lot more than like a shmup you would typically associate with a shmup.
Well, say the whole like, because I don't know if you could tell by watching the game, but there's a little bit of like momentum, and you can actually angle your shots. Speeding up changes the way your paper flies when you throw it. Turning left and right changes.
I'd actually say this is a lot more like actually like a driving game.
Yeah.
Like not like racing, but sort of like how Spy Hunter was.
Yeah, I was about to say Spy Hunter, where there is a shooting element to a driving game.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you kind of go by and you throw papers. Your aim is to get them on the doorstep or in the mailbox for extra points. And there's a few things that, namely, I'll talk about like crows that they will chase you down and I think almost guaranteed take a life unless if you hit them with a paper first. So you've got your limited supply of papers, you use them to get extra points, and you use them to fill out your paper route. Get to the end, there's a bonus round where you jump through like a bunch of obstacles and throw papers at targets for extra points. And that's all in good. I had no problem with that. It was all fun. The controls were pretty good. The problem is so you do that bonus round and you hit day 2, and it's the exact same game, except it's a little bit tougher. And it becomes a real strain to get like any depth into the game. You're doing a lot of the same stuff over and over. I don't know, would you reckon that the length of each level is what, like maybe 3 minutes? They're not short, that's for sure, and they get longer.
Yeah.
So I'd say a minute and a half to 3 minutes, and you got to do this 7 times, almost not dying at all. You get 5 lives, an extra life if you nail every house, which is not easy, and there's a lot of sort of RNG involved where you can kind of get trapped. Even if you have the foresight to, I'm going to write on the grass because the baby's going to come down the street. Okay, baby came down, dive out real quick in the road. Okay, here comes the house. I got to throw a paper at. Oh, wait, there's a hand coming out of the sewer blocking me from throwing the paper. I needed to be on the sidewalk, even though the baby came at me on the sidewalk. And then you get hit by a car anyway.
Mm.
So there's a lot of frustrating, like, waiting for just, like, the right pattern of houses and the right RNG, and having the skill to predict what the RNG is going to throw at you. And you're doing this for 7 days in a row. And after those 7 days, 21 minutes, mind you, if I'm correct in saying that they're 3 minutes long each, that's 21 minutes of just like marathon not dying. It takes you to an even longer street with new houses that you haven't seen before and tougher obstacles. And it just was a fucking bore to deal with this game. It quickly became not fun and one of the more tedious things I've played. This probably is the worst game that I've done through the Gauntlet. It sounded like you had a better experience. Your game sounds a little more unique. I don't know. Tell me all about your journey.
I don't know. You satisfied you've made peace with Paperboy 2?
I think so. Do you have any questions? The game was just like it was sucky because it was boring. I've dealt with hard games before. I've beaten hard games and I've had fun with hard games. I had a lot of fun with like Wizardry, which was balls. Um, Paperboy was boring. It was boring and repetitive.
Like I said, I do you don't see the arcade aspect, and I see it a lot. Not like in like a side scroller and beat 'em up. I mean like Pac-Man style games or Donkey Kong
Okay,
style games,
I
where
see what you mean by that.
where it's your same screen but amped up difficulty. See how far you can get. Much more about getting high score kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess then it's a little bit false because it gives you the feeling that you're making progress, but there is no intention to actually make progress. Maybe then is my problem.
I do believe that the game does have an end once you've done all streets. You get like the newspaper. You get like Paperboy like retires in success or something like that.
Yeah, no, I generally look up to see if there actually is an ending to the game, so I don't just play Spy Hunter for 40 hours to realize that it doesn't go anywhere. So I knew it ended. I didn't know what happened at the end. I'm sure it was probably uneventful, as most of these games are. Nothing can be as eventful as, having a burger with Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, you don't get something that good.
What does the Gipper put on his burger?
Do you think he likes pickles?
I think he loves pickles.
That's one of the.
Not sliced. I mean like
He likes
you
the
have them
boats.
like in like quarters, like the whole pickle.
Well, do you like the pickle boat?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You like I like that crunch.
Do you think he likes Rubens then? Or does he like just a good old fashioned cheeseburger?
Anyway, this isn't video games, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
No,
I'm
tell me
sorry
about
I
your
brought
game.
it up.
My game sucked and it's made me sad. I'm ready to play my new game. Tell me about your game. Make me feel better.
Okay, yeah, my game, 100 World Story, I'll call it from now on, it's
Oh,
your
what was it?
100
I
Worlds.
got used to the old name.
Yeah, can you repeat it to me then?
Go on.
Hayaku no Sekai no Monogatari is what it is. It's actually not like in any ways a linear game or a game with an easy like beginning and end. But what it actually is, it's a board game with like a JRPG skin. So the basic format of the game is that you start it up, and you pick from three scenarios. There's kill the dragon, find the treasure, and rescue the princess. And so those are like the three different game boards that you can play on. And you pick them, and then you get to, and just like any other board game or like a Mario Party game, you pick your character. There are no classes. It's not that. It's
There's
not
no
that.
difference between the character other than just like what sprite you'll be using.
Yeah, it's you pick male and female are your two choices,
Okay.
and then when you do CPUs actually have it's because the game doesn't like, since it's in the tradition of being a role playing game, you don't have to all be competing, at least in the traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the different AIs that you can pick from are like they're friendly or heroic or evil. Those are the three primary ones that you would see.
Mm-hmm.
And that affects the way they interact with you when you're playing the game.
So wait, okay. Is this a multiplayer game?
Yes, it can be up to 4 players.
Okay, so I guess you each take turns. Do you know for multiple players, do they get different sprites, or are you just like forced still to choose?
They're all colors.
Okay.
That's how it is.
Pretty standard.
So, yes. So basically, you started up the game, and it gives you like a little sequence where where like the king starts, and he tells you whatever scenario you're in. Like if it's kill the dragon, he says, there's a dragon that needs to be killed at this volcano or whatever. And then from there, it's basically taking turns on a game board, which is actually partially randomized. There's like a set number of like major locations, but the different like map routes will change.
Okay, I was gonna say, does it have a route, but it randomizes like the objects along the route?
Yeah, like I believe there will always be the same amount of towns and forests and things like that. I didn't go in depth on counting and seeing the consistency of it all. But
Mhm.
it's partially randomized. But after playing a few games, you kind of detect the patterns pretty easily. So it's basically that scenario, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of what to talk about next. I guess what I would say is going through each thing. When you're playing against the CPU, I played it since as it's a role playing game. I kind of made it my own personal goal of I would try to win all three scenarios mostly by myself. So I didn't want to because I wanted to actually see how well I can learn the game, not like say set the CPU to friendly and just sort of ride their coattails kind of thing.
Set all the CPU in Mario Party to easy, and then when you're
Yeah,
done,
exactly.
plug in controllers for all four
So
of them.
I tried to see what I could do. I would always set the CPU to random though, just to see what different things I would get.
Yeah.
And the general rule I found about the AIs is for friendly, it's they will never fight you.
Yeah.
Which should be obvious. But at the same time, after if someone's engaged in combat and you then approach their space where they're fighting, you get the option to enter the end combat.
Mm-hmm.
And after the enemy's been defeated, it ends with you guys as a single unit. So you're no longer taking. So you do take turns still, but when you move, you're carrying the party member with you.
Okay.
So when you're playing AI friendly, they will never split the party once that happens.
Mm-hmm.
A heroic or an evil person will typically do that.
Will heroic like split off? Like, okay, do they try to win for themselves, but not necessarily screw you in the process?
Yeah, I would say with heroic, they sort of behave friendly or at least non-hostile until the latter half of the game, and then they seem to be, if not actively trying to kill you, if you guys ever cross paths, they will not hesitate to attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And then for evil, I would say because I never really got attacked, and I think that's partially because of the AI just being strategically avoiding you because it doesn't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
But the evil person would never help me in a fight, and then until the end actually started acting hostile. So I guess that's just the basic way when you're playing it by yourself how it would go. If you're playing with friends, I would say being competitive is probably the more interesting way. Because if you're friendly, the game can get pretty easy. It's not that big of it wouldn't be too difficult.
The like basic challenge of the game itself is difficult. The competition.
I would say if you were to play this game and you want to be like friend and you want to do like a friendly style like team up one, I would say reduce the number of turns and make that the challenge. Because the default is 55 turns, and I would play that. And some games would get completed, but most of them were not when we were competitive. So I just upped it up to the max of 99.
Mm-hmm.
And that was generally that. And I would say that was probably more than enough. You would like most games at 55. If it didn't complete, we were near the end.
Yeah.
So I would say just like if you want to keep if you feel like you need the challenge of having limited turns, no more than 65 turns would be necessary. Being friendly, you'll probably want to lower it.
Yeah. How different are each of the game modes? Like, do they have actually different goals, or are they all the same, like just different MacGuffin, different map?
There is they start off initially different, but they kind of all eventually sort of meet at the same kind of like end game focal point. So I'll go through each scenario of how it goes, and you'll see how they kind of all become this. They kind of start different, but then become the same game.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one is the kill the dragon game, and with that one, it's just as obvious as it sounds. There's a dragon, you need to kill it. So, and then with that, it's just you're going from places to places, going to towns, buying equipment, fighting random enemies. Which I'll put as a side note that all the enemies that you fight are extremely charming and endearing.
Are they all going on your Twitter page?
Yes, my Twitter page. I've posted many of my favorites. But yeah, it's certainly in the vein of the kind of like Dragon Quest. They're that kind of like cartoony charm.
They don't have a lot of pixel counts, so they have to have a lot of obvious cartoony features and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
So they got a lot of really like bright personality, and they're also like and they're also all like ridiculous like mimics. Like there's a book mimic where you open the book and the book tries to eat you. There's a coffin that's also a mimic that tries to eat you. There's a cake that's also a mimic and tries to eat you.
Oh, cool. We're getting a train now.
Train hype.
Best train. See how loud this one's gonna be. I'm afraid to have you keep talking and the train just completely smother you.
You should surround yourself with like foam as audio installation.
Dude, these windows are soundproof.
Well, clearly they're not.
It comes in through the walls, dude.
Well,
I
then
think
you
it's
just
being quiet. I think you can talk.
All right. So yeah, what was it? Yeah, so enemies. So there's like a cake on a floating saucer that tries to eat you, and then
The cake on a floating saucer, and
yeah.
So you just say, okay, well, I think here's a good question, especially with all these mimics. Is there like a chance that they're not mimics and you just get stuff from them?
I've
you
never
get to eat the cake.
I've never encountered I've only encountered one coffin, and it was a mimic. The book I've found books. I found like money and spells inside. The cake is I don't think I've ever discovered the cake as like an event before it being an enemy.
Mhm.
So it might just be a random enemy and nothing more. I don't know if it has an actual like you've encountered a delicious cake. Will you eat it? Yeah. So that's kind of how those mimics go. And then there's also like this like it's like its name is Atlas, I believe was the name of it, and it looks like and it looks like Andrew Ryan from the Punch Out games.
Yeah.
Only 7 feet tall and blue. And the sprite for it is great because it's not a static animation. It's actually 3 flex poses all, that are in constant rotation while you're fighting it. So, yeah. And in the dragon scenario, I only came across one possibility, but I'll get into the other ones because I think there are multiple endings for some of these games.
Okay.
But this one, so I got up strong enough level to fight the dragon, and the key to this one is because the games are since this is a board game, not like a full-fledged JRPG, the mechanics are kind of limited. Like when you fight the dragon, your level being high is important, but buy the dragon armor and the dragon weapons.
Yeah.
It's not. Well, the game's not railroading you in like you have to get that equipment to fight the dragon. You'll quickly find that you probably definitely need it.
Mm-hmm. Or just let RNGesus take your hand through it.
Yeah, the fight is significantly more difficult if you're not like getting all the equipment before you do so.
Is it mostly just like fight run for like battle turn sort of thing? No real strategy.
It's your basic fight run, and then there's also spells, and spells are just you don't learn those. You just they're just basically like items. But you buy them and find them and use them like as expendables.
Like heal spell and fireball spell for free damage, free health.
No like magic stat. It's just you just find them like items and use them.
Yeah. Okay.
So on your way to fighting the dragon, it's in addition to doing those things, there's also plenty of randomized quests that you'll find. Like it's you'll meet a girl and she says like I want to like get to my father in the other town. Will you escort me? And you say yes. And then from that point on, the girl will be in your party and will get in the way when you're fighting enemies. Like you'll encounter an enemy. And then when you select attack, it says like a little girl got in the way, and then it significantly reduces the amount of health or damage you do. And then in addition to that, you can also find people who will help you, like pirates will add to your damage. It'll say they assist you and things like that. So there's that, and then and I'll tell you like in addition to the random events, there's also just bad random events that aren't quests. And they like fucking suck because it'll be like a thing where you'll walk into town and it says your character bumped into someone. You lost 5,000 coins, and it's all the coins you lost. Or
real life though.
Or the worst one
True
is
end.
or the worst one was some guy complained that you hit you. You've lost 300 experience points and it went down 2 levels. And with the dragon one, eventually I got high enough that I could fight the dragon, and I killed it. And I was like, hey, I actually won this one. And then I went to report to the king, and I figured that would be the game over. And the king is pissed. He says, no, that was the wrong dragon. That dragon was protecting us.
That sounds like a Dragon Quest story.
And in retrospect, it made sense because when I killed the dragon, he said, "No, you fools!" I thought he was just being a villain, like, you ignorant fools! I would have fixed the world, but no, it turns out the dragon was our guardian, and he was protecting us from the real dragon. Which you think the king would have let us know.
There's 2 dragons.
By the way, there's the good dragon that's protecting us from the evil dragon.
So you reckon that there was a hidden evil dragon that you had to beat?
Yeah, I did, it was. I can only assume it was like because this was getting into the part where I said there's like multiple endings. Yeah. I do think there might have been a possibility where that the game might have just ended there, and it would have been game over. You won. Mm-hmm. But I think this was a random scenario where the dragon ends up becoming. Where a new, stronger dragon reappears on the map after this event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in this game, I actually did win the game. I was able to beat the secondary dragon, mm-hmm. though it took a few tries. Though I was eventually able to do that. And then with that one, it's once you kill the dragon, it just says you became the what was that one? Oh yes, in that one, I believe the king dies. Because after you've killed the second dragon, you talk to the lord or whatever, and he says this was too much for the king to handle, and he is no more. Will you become our ruler now?
Shit was too much for the king. He fucked off to another planet.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess us killing the good dragon must have just pissed him off so much he just had a heart attack shortly thereafter. But I killed the evil dragon, so I get to be king now. So that's how that game ends. And the second player gets to become my baron or whatever. Because I do believe in that one it eventually, just because we all have the same goal, the AI just ended up helping me out.
Yeah.
So we killed that dragon together. Though it's very much based on who delivered the killing blow is mm-hmm. the winner. But where was I leaving off?
You left off saying, that you trade blows, and so it's killing blow is the person who gets.
Yeah, killing blow is basically the winner. So there's a lot of scenarios, and it's kind of I don't know if it was intentional. I would definitely say there's probably in a competitive style, this is definitely kind of the thing you might want to do is try and kill steal mm-hmm. things. Because with things like the dragon or especially difficult enemies, both of you will get experience, but there's an special experience bonus for the person who did do the killing blow.
Yeah.
So helping people actually has a strategic way to boost yourself up. Even though you're assisting them. Mm-hmm. So that's that scenario, and then the treasure one is very similar. What it is but the first section is different, where you have to go find the hidden treasure, and typically what it is there's several different colored gems. And what it is you have to, there's a witch in a forest who wants a specific colored one. Mm-hmm. So you have to get the gem. And the way you do it is either you can buy it from the store for a lot of money, or there's a bunch of quests.
You could just go buy it.
Yeah, they do have it, and I think they put it in there just in case randomness does not work out very well to make getting the right colored gems easy enough. Right. So it's kind of like the exit out fashion of you can just buy it for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So it's basic. So basic flow of the game is pretty much identical with that, except instead of training to kill the dragon. You're just doing all the odd job stuff until you can get the gems and show the witch the right one. I showed the witch the wrong one, which causes you to lose the gem, and you have to start all over from scratch. So if you bought the gem, or if you did a quest for someone that costs you money, because like some of the quests are like buy me this item and I'll give you the gem kind of things. So you basically wasted your time if you don't give the witch the right color. So it seems like the method is just get all three, and then because that's what the computer did. And it's always funny watching the computer, because the computer like is doing everything like twice speed, like navigating all the menus.
Yeah.
So first I show the witch my one gem. I was like, is it the right one? No. So I lose, and then it's like next computer's turn. First thing they do is they enter the store, and then like at like rapid fire pace in like less than a second, they buy all of the gems. Like they've just been collecting money. So they bought all the gems, and then went to the witch and said, "Yes, I have it. Just one of these ones." And the witch was like, "Oh, good, you got the right one." Now I'll let you know where the secret treasure is. And the secret treasure is then once again is you fight a dragon, and the dragon fight is effectively the same.
Yeah.
Though my problem with this one was, in this one I was specifically fighting an evil person. In the last one I was describing, I was playing with a hero person. So they only fought me when they crossed paths near the end game. But this person, once they killed the dragon and got the treasure to report back to the king, they would never report to the king. Instead, they would just wait at the volcano where they killed the dragon, and if I ever moved, they would try to kill me. So basically the game was like there were still like 30 turns left, but the game was getting closer and closer to being a fail scenario because the person just simply refused to finish the game. And I was wondering, could I possibly defeat the person and steal the item? But in the scenarios where I fought the computer in the past, that's never really been the case. You get experience and you get money. You never get items from killing the person. So it's like I wasn't sure what to do. So I eventually just said, fuck it. There's no point in playing these like last, at this point, like last 5 rounds, because I've just been like running around in circles with this fucker. So I just turned the guy human, had him walk to the king and end the scenario. So that was it for the treasure one. The treasure one's probably the weakest of the ones that, as far as being interesting.
Yeah.
There might be more interesting scenarios in like the randomness, but I never experienced it.
You'd have to play quite a few times, and that's not what we're here for.
Yeah. Then the final one, which was probably my favorite and the one I played the most, was the Rescue the Princess one. And that one is mostly I love it because one, it has the most story, quote unquote, in the beginning. And by most story I mean instead of the king just saying go do this, you also see like the young prince. And when you encounter the prince in the castle, he says, "I am engaged to the princess. I feel very sad." Because the princess disappeared. So, and in this game, what it is once again the same basic scenario of the RPG board game. And then you have to find out where the princess is hiding, and you'll eventually encounter a quest where some guy says, like, "I know where the princess is. Give me some gold and I will tell you where she is," and then that'll sort of spark off where you can find her. There's also another scenario where you can meet one of the princess's like friends, like from another small kingdom, and if you're at a certain high enough level, they'll tell you that they're actually hiding the person. So those are like 2 ways you'll find the princess. And then when
is it RNG as to which one it is, or is it any of them?
It seems to be, it would be random as to which scenario it would be.
Okay.
I don't think I came across one where those were like one and the same, where you could either pay the guy gold and he would tell you it's hiding with the princess, that kind of thing, or if they're always separate.
Yeah.
So I only encountered them separate, so that's kind of what I'm assuming it was. And then you'll meet the princess, and the princess says, like, "I don't want to go. I don't want to marry the person because he's evil and he looks kind of evil." I mean, he says he is very sad, and I was convinced, but he does look kind of like sinister.
Does he look like Snively Whiplash?
No, he's more like handsome evil with a long flowing purple cloak.
Okay.
And part of his bangs covering his eye.
He's like an evil Disney prince.
Yeah, exactly. So, and of course, when you do that, the very first thing you think of is, well, I'm going to go take her back to the king anyway. So, and in that scenario, there are two things that can happen. Either the game ends right there. In either the prince marries the princess, game over, you won, the king gave you a lot of money, or the princess says, no, I don't want to, and then turns to the player and says, let's run away. And it's great when that happens because whoever wins runs away with the princess, and then they get married somewhere far away. And then for the other player who got left behind, it says, and that player continued searching, but that story's not important now. So it's like you can only imagine like the person is still looking for the princess.
I thought you should become best friends with the prince or something, and they just like hung out together. That's prize number 2.
They just declared bros before hoes, and then the final one, which is the prince will kidnap the princess and then run away, and you have to find them again. And what happens is then it returns back to like a dragon fight. The prince turns out to be a dragon, and you kill the dragon.
Do you know if there's any way that you can manipulate which of these endings, or is it like based on how much time was left on the clock, maybe, or is it just completely like it decides?
I'm pretty sure it's just completely random.
Yeah.
The dragon one happened to me when I was playing with only 55 turns, and we ran out of time before we could kill the dragon. So, and then but then I've also, when I've set it to like 99 turns, I've had the one where it just ends right away as soon as you find the princess.
Because I thought like maybe it looks at how many turns are left and says, all right, well, the game's about to end. We wrap it up, short end.
Yeah.
Because it definitely sounds like the dragon is the better ending, or at least the more interesting one.
Yeah, I would say so too. So it just seems random as to which one it goes. So all in all, so the game was pretty interesting, and definitely not at all like hard to pick up. It was the version I was playing, as my title would imply, this is actually a fan translation of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as it went, everything seemed to run pretty well. There was no like obvious problems with running the game.
Was there many like cut off text, like if you remember Maharaja or a lot of SMTs cut off?
A lot of names were elided and abbreviated.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was all fine.
There's nothing where you had a short guide because there was an option that was just AR, and it's like, what is that supposed to mean?
No, you can easily figure out all the game and its mechanics on your own.
Okay. Yeah, because that's frustrating oftentimes in translation when it was only like 1 or 2 characters that they needed to say, like maybe a spell name. So they have to like super abbreviate, when the spell is like lightning bolt, but it's like 2 characters.
And the game all in all is fairly user friendly. I mean, you can actually go into the options, like how I said I changed the CPU I was playing against into a human player. You can change it. You can change it between human and CPU anytime. You can change their alignment whenever you want. You can even just straight up give yourself more turns.
Yeah,
you need to do that.
Like just mid game, you can give yourself more.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you can pretty much play the game however you want. It's pretty free flowing like that.
Yeah.
So all in all, the game's pretty interesting. Only worth a few playthroughs. In what I played through, I mostly exhausted it. There's probably more scenarios maybe that can come up with out of random, but I don't feel the huge need to do it again. So the game is pretty good. I had a lot of fun with it, especially just I just found the most fun just finding all the different sprites of enemies and characters because I just found them really interesting. So I just kept taking screenshots all the time throughout this game.
So I guess the big question, because you definitely sounds like you enjoyed yourself, but would you like recommend it for someone to play, or like what circumstances would you recommend it? Because it sounds like it's a game that's hard to like if you just wanted like it's not an adventure game with a strong ending or something like that. It's very meandering, although interesting and quirky and fun. Would you suggest it like for someone to play?
I would say, as far as after my experience, I would definitely want to try and give it a shot. At least maybe 1 or 2 games with with actual people, players. Because I think because then without it being pre-baked like AIs, people can decide do they want to just help the people, or do they just want to straight up just be fuckers and screw the game over or try and win for themselves? So I think that would be interesting. So try playing the game with friends. Try playing the game with drunk friends.
Yeah, I was about to say this sounds like a good game. Like, when you get drunk and you play Mario Party or something like that, and
yeah,
you
and like
enjoy
I said,
fucking with each other.
And the game, and even though the game's using JRPG mechanics, they're definitely bare bones mechanics. You don't have any problems with it. You'll play it. You'll get annoyed by the sort of archaic sort of things, like being able to lose experience is really annoying.
Yeah,
and things like that. Playing with a computer is also annoying because while they're not super smart, they have like as a computer those sort of instant snaps of where they know exactly what to do.
Yeah,
and while you're trying to remember like what names of towns are because you forgot to check the map, but you've already like locked yourself down as saying I'm gonna move, but you didn't get. But once you do that, you don't get to like check the map again for names. But the computers just got it all just set out so they can just snap to every single location in like the most economically short amount of turns. So you'll come across that a few times, but all in all, it's pretty good.
All right. Well, do we have much of anything to say about? I think I'm done with Paperboy. I don't think I have anything. Nothing new has come up while sitting here. Or you got everything you want off your chest about this game?
There is one more thing. Is I found out later that if you've played the game Sonic Dreams Collection, the fan game. Let me see.
How is this related?
Yeah, you don't know the developer Arcane Kids, who are also known for making the Bubsy 3D game, where Bubsy explores the James Turrell exhibition museum. Inside the Dreams Collection files, there actually is a broken ROM of this game of
Hayaku. That is a disgusting coincidence.
So I looked this up later, and it's called like Clown. It's just called Clown in the files,
and it's like a NES ROM file.
It's called clownrace.nes, and you can run it through an emulator, and all it is like just the title screen of this game, and then it crashes. So why that's in there, I don't know. Ask Arcane Kids. Maybe they're fans of this game.
They played it once and they all got drunk and they played it and had a ball with it. Well, aside from that oddity, do you have anything else?
No.
All right.
All I have to say is I'm engaged to the princess. I am very sad.
Here's an important question: is Princess a waifu candidate, or is she too plain?
She is cute as a button. I'll say that.
You heard it here. If you're out hunting for waifus, this is a game that you may need to look up. So next week, I'll be playing. Ooh, I wanted to ask you concerning this game. So I got the game, the movie game No Escape for the Genesis for the next week coming up, which I may end up playing some today. I got some stuff I gotta do before I get to that, and also Skorgar wants to play Diablo with me, I think, today. So we'll see if I get to it. But I want to ask you your opinion on this. Do I play the game and make assumptions about the movie, then watch the movie, or do I watch the movie before I play the game? Or does it not matter?
I would say try if it doesn't seem explicit, try and guess the plot of the movie by playing the game.
By playing the game. All right. So yeah, that's what I was leaning towards, but I wanted to see if you had an opinion otherwise and might convince me. And you will be playing next week?
Yeah, so as you implied, we decided that we were just going to roll a Genesis game. Just that was my decision. I wanted to play a Genesis game.
There's a lot of gems on the Genesis that I think neither of us are aware of.
So I ended up getting Carmen Sandiego for the Genesis. So I have no idea what that's going to be like. If that's just going to be like a downport of the PC game, is it going to be its own game altogether?
So you haven't looked up any screenshots of it yet?
I saw one, and it looked like it was just like a map, so I didn't really get enough context as to how that map is used.
Okay, you're guessing crap port of one of the PCs. I'm expecting it to be more like James Bond Jr. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be. I'm leaning towards downport of the game.
Okay. Well then, I think we got everything said that we want to say. Follow Septopus at JB Usher on Twitter.
I'm posting. I'll always be posting screenshots of the games we play.
At least if there's any good screenshots in the game.
Yeah.
Most games got something cool.
I'll always post at least one.
All right. Well then, I think that's all. Goodbye then. Goodbye.
See ya.